Hey everyone, I forgot to look up the date. Hey everyone, it is June 5th, 2015. I'm Rene Ritchie, and right now we're going to talk about HomeKit being available and WWDC, it's just incoming. This is the iMore Show. Joining me today, we have Serenity Caldwell with us. Hi Ren, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. I am in the process of moving, which is why I've got these lovely things as opposed to my regular microphone, so I apologize in advance for my cruddy sound. And I'm going to be on a plane later today, going to WWDC. Woo!
Changing all the things.
All the things.
Also joining us, Peter Cohen from the land of... Where are you? What land are you in today, Peter?
Well, I am still stuck in Massachusetts, but I will be flying out to San Francisco for WWDC on Sunday.
Yeah, we're all traveling on different days. Serenity's going today. I'm going tomorrow, and you're going the next day. I think that's, again, for presidential reasons.
Yeah, that sounds like a legit reason.
You can only take one of us, people.
I think I'm flying in after and leaving before anyone else, right? Because I'm out on Thursday.
Yeah. All right, we'll figure that out later. Joining us also, Georgia Dow. How you doing, Georgia?
I'm good.
When are you flying out and coming back?
I'm not.
Ah.
You guys are gonna all party without me.
This makes me so sad.
I know. I don't know if WWDC could physically survive you, Georgia.
Sad Groot. Sad Groot.
I think Groot looks pretty happy.
Oh, Jesus.
All right, so let's dive in. I guess the biggest story for this week, before we get to what's going to be the biggest story for next week, is that Apple shipped HomeKit. Serenity just...
No. You got it wrong. The biggest story is that Apple shipped me my Apple Watch. Finally.
Whoa, Peter, you actually get to do a podcast wearing your watch.
Oh, it's fancy.
All right, so let's start with that, Peter. What's your quick take on the Apple Watch?
Oh, I love it. My thesis going into it was that it was going to help me manage my health better, and it does. It absolutely does. It taps me on the wrist to remind me to take my supplements. It lets me know that it's time to get up and move around. It does a much better job of tracking activity than my iPhone 6 ever did. So in all those respects, it is a resounding success. I'm still getting the hang of it. I'm still learning how to use glances and Force Touch and all the other cool stuff that it can do. And I'm still kind of playing around with third-party apps. But so far, I am very pleased with the Apple Watch and really looking forward to what else it's going to be able to do.
Like teleportation.
Oh,
starting that rumor right now. That is not a feature of Watch 2.0 as far as I know. So HomeKit arrived.
But if it is, you heard it here first.
HomeKit arrived, and we'll tie that into the watch in a few minutes. But before we get into HomeKit, Georgia looked at the previous generation of home automation, the cusp. You decided to go all in literally the day before HomeKit shipped. So you installed the Ecobee 3 with your husband. What was it like just before we get to the HomeKit stuff?
Okay,
you
so
installed the Ecobee 3 on your husband? What?
Yeah, well, he needed temperature control, so it works on anything. Setup was difficult, but the setup was a little bit scary, and neither of us had ever done anything like this before, and so we did need to call support. And you're always scared when you call support because you don't know if it's going to be good or bad. It was fabulous. They were able to answer all questions, put us on the right. We didn't get electrocuted. No one died. It was really, really simple, and if we can do it, anyone can do it. So it's wonderful. We can change the temperature wherever we are. It also knows when we're in certain rooms, so if we're downstairs instead of, so we have one of the sensors, we put it downstairs. So if we're downstairs, it'll change the temperature without us having to say anything to the proper temperature for the downstairs when we're there, and then when the motion sensor notices we're upstairs, it'll go back to being the right temperature in the upstairs. It's so cool.
And you can control this from the thing itself, but also your iPhone and your Apple Watch?
Exactly. You get it from everything. It's really nice.
So we installed that, and then lo and behold, Ren, I forget if it was the Monday or the Tuesday, HomeKit cameth.
Tuesday, yeah, the day after Georgia's whole special on the Ecobee started launching. Then I was like, oh, just kidding, hey guys, HomeKit. Also, the Ecobee 3 will be compatible, but not the version you have, Georgia. Sorry.
To do it all over again, yeah.
Yeah, but now you're an old pro at it. Now you know how to do it.
That's it.
Yeah, no, HomeKit came out. There are 5 products available on the market. I immediately rushed to an Apple store to get the only one that you could get in stores, which is the Lutron Cassetta. which is a series of sort of smart lighting switches for your home. I got the starter kit, which involves like a little tiny bridge that kind of looks like the Sonos bridge. You plug it into your router, and then you've got 2 plugs that go into different plugs in your home that you can plug lights into it. And not only will it control, lights on and off, it also dims the lights, which is kind of cool. And because it's HomeKit, you get to use Siri, so I can be like, Siri, turn the lights to 60%, and then they'll dim to 60.
Siri, mood lighting.
Yes. Siri, enable this. Sadly, scenes don't work yet with Siri, which makes me sad. I have a scene called Enter the Space Room.
Love it.
Yes. So sadly, I just had to name my room Space Room for it to trigger.
That's not bad. That's not bad. I have Game of Thrones, so for each show that I watch, I'm like, wait, enter Game of Thrones.
All of the lights.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, so HomeKit's really interesting in that you need a HomeKit-enabled bridge that your accessories can talk to in order for them to be HomeKit enabled. So each individual light and plug and everything else, those don't necessarily have to have the end-to-end encryption that HomeKit requires, but they have to be able to talk to a bridge that does have end-to-end encryption. So that means positive things for people who have Wemos or Philips Hue lights, where you're like, oh God, do I have to repurchase thousands of dollars of lights if I'm an early adopter? And the answer seems to be no, you just have to have a little bridge that can talk to HomeKit. So it remains to be seen whether Philips will make a Hue bridge that connects and talks to HomeKit, or whether Philips will partner with someone who's already making a bridge. TBD. Right now we've got, I think, 2 manufacturers of the 5 that are making specific bridge-type elements, which Lutron has a bridge included in their starter kit, the Smart Bridge. And then what's the other one, Renee?
Intreon.
Intreon. No, yeah, Intreon? Yes.
I think it's Intreon, yeah.
Yeah. all of these home automation companies with their crazy names. Yeah, Insteon. There we go. Yeah, so Insteon has a HomeKit hub that they've released that currently only talks to Insteon products, but they may be adding third-party support in the future, TBD. And Lutron's bridge is really interesting. I've been kind of grappling with this, in that Lutron's bridge currently lets you control your lights via Siri, but despite the fact that it has Nest integration using the Works with Nest program, it doesn't support using your phone to control Nest via Siri.
So when you're using Siri, you can use your watch?
I can't right now. That's the other annoying thing. You can only use Siri, you can only command HomeKit by using Siri on your phone. When you try and use it on your watch, when you try and be like, Siri, turn the lights to 60, your watch is like, I can help you do that with your phone. So that's actually something I'm hoping that we see at WW next week, is an expansion of Siri's capabilities. We know that WatchKit 2.0, maybe it's 2.0. We know that another version of WatchKit is coming that will have full support for apps, not just sort of iPhone handoff apps. And I'm kind of hoping that along those lines, Apple might let Siri do a few more things, because right now all of the handoff things make me cry all of the tears. I want to control my lights on my watch. The amount of time.
Because I don't have my phone on me anymore. I have my watch. I need everything to be controlled from my watch now.
Exactly.
So that I can leave meetings and be like, I'll be 1 second, and then like walk out, just because that's cool looking.
Yeah, it's fun. Lutron does have a watch app, so I've actually defaulted. I haven't been using Siri much with HomeKit because of that, because I have to carry my phone around to do it. So I've just.
But you have to touch buttons like an animal.
Yeah. I know, touch screen.
That's so 2014.
God.
It's super interesting to me because it's such a complicated problem, because you do have all these vendors and there are competing standards, and Apple wants to provide a common interface, but at the same time, the companies want Apple's market, they want Apple's users because they're hugely lucrative, but they want to maintain control of their own networks and their own systems. And there's sort of the same thing we see in Apple Pay and the same thing we see sometimes in apps and extensibility and music and all these things. It's just it's a whole power dynamic of going to throw it to George's milieu for a minute, but like these incredibly complicated fights for dominance. But I'm kind of sad that a lot of these companies didn't include, because what Apple wants is secure chipsets down to the radio level. So, like correct me if I'm wrong, Shani, but once you log in, those passwords are just passed around securely between your components. You don't have to keep logging in each time.
Exactly. You just have to log in once to your respective iOS app, and from there you're golden. You're good. And in fact, if you're a shared user, it all gets passed in using iCloud keychains. So if you're an added user or a shared user, you don't even have to have the app. You can just control it by being like, Siri, turn on the lights, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, and I love that because these networks, people have been concerned about putting home automation things on their networks, almost like they used to be concerned about putting Nintendo Wiis on their networks, because like it's just they thought they would create holes. And I like the fact that these are secure, and I want everyone to make them secure. So yeah, it's a complete pain if you've bought a $250 Ecobee and you have to replace it, or you have to replace the hub. I don't know what the hub will cost on the Hue, but it probably won't be that much, $100 or something. It's still spending $100. I would have rather they had been secure the entire time and it was just a software update. But I'm happy that they are secure, because I didn't even think to be worried that putting a couple hubs on my network would lead to like an intrusion or data leak or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's worthwhile to be able to like you live with a little bit of difficulty, and yes, it's a little bit of a cost, but at least then you know that everything is safe. And so that, I'll spend the money, I'll redo the installation so that I know that everything's safe, everything's good, it's working the way that I should. And Apple does a great job of that. So it's a mild amount of annoyance, a small amount of money to make sure that everything that you have in your system is safe.
Yeah, and I hope it becomes more like we've seen with CarPlay, where vendors support Android Auto and CarPlay. So if there are competing standards, like Google's got, I forget what it's called, Brillo is the code name for what they're doing, and there's standards from big vendors already, and there are things like Wiimote and things like Hue, and I hope that they just, if they can, they just put all these things together, because that way you can buy the equipment and not have to worry about the standard. The device you use just handles all that, and that shouldn't be a problem that humans have to take care of. Like Serenity or Georgia or Peter and I shouldn't have to go there and painstakingly look through a list of ingredients to see which or what protocols are supported with these devices. If they're technologically able to do it, they should just work. Get on that, vendors.
Agreed. I want my Nest to work.
So what do you,
yeah.
So what do you, I was going to ask you, what are you looking forward to, Ren, now that you have HomeKit underway?
I'm looking forward to adding more things. In fact, once I started automating my home, once I started putting the little lights in, I immediately started thinking, like, okay, what else can I do? What else can I do? Oh, I can do shades. Oh, God, those shades are horribly, prohibitively expensive. Never mind. What else can I do? It's exciting. It's a really, it is the home of the future. It is what I think of when I think of the carousel of progress and Walt Disney and Epcot and
Stark Expo.
Yeah, no, it makes me giddy as like a little kid inside. So that I am excited to see more of those products. I'm excited to see it move out of the early adopter phase into the overall phase, and also how it's going to help us save energy. And help us, just be more aware of what's going on in our home. I'm really interested to see the Elgato Eve sensors, because I like some of that stuff, like the air quality and detection of hazardous material, things that I would have never thought to look for. And I'm like, actually, that's really interesting.
I'm so paranoid. My air is killing me. My air is killing me.
Yeah, I know. Well, and again, that goes into the, you want to make sure that your house is secure and safe on these networks, because you don't want someone to be able to hack into your Eve and be like, I'm going to tell them that they have carbon monoxide poisoning, then they leave the house, and then I go rob the house.
Georgia's totally going to gaslight me with actual gas and light.
Yes, exactly. She's gonna mess around. But no, I'm really pumped. I'm also hoping that, again, I really doubt that Nest itself is going to get support for HomeKit, because Nest and Google and Apple and all of that. But Nest does have the Works with Nest program, and I'm really hoping that those APIs can be leveraged to hook into a HomeKit base, because it would be really nice to, not have to buy an Ecobee or buy a thermostat just because it doesn't work with, the standard that I want. I don't want competing standards. That's why I held off on home automation for this long to begin with. It's like, I just want all my things to talk to each other. How is it that complicated? We've got the internet.
I want Sonos, but Sonos hasn't even done AirPlay yet, so I'm not going to hold my breath. But
Oh, I know. Sonos, I was thinking about that nonstop. Although, you know what, Sonos, let's start with the watch controls, because that would be really nice. That would be great.
Georgia, you have a bunch of home automation stuff now. Like you have the ecobee 3, you have the Hue lights. You don't have the HomeKit stuff yet, but is it an area you want to grow? Do you want to get more of it?
I do. I just can't wait to see the different things that you can automatically automate. I'm really excited about it, but again, I'm thinking of the home of the future. I want to have the blinds that when I enter the room, they open. I don't want to have an alarm anymore. I just want my blinds to open up and the light just comes in and warmly bathes me in sunlight as I wake up. Exactly. I want to walk through rooms and the lights automatically just turn on and off as I leave because I always forget to turn off the lights. I want my coffee to be ready when I want it. I'm like, oh, I'm heading home, coffee ready. Like, it's just going to be so wonderful, and my only issue is to make sure it's secure because I don't want someone else controlling my coffee. I want to be able to control it. So I will wait as we have to go through a little bit more time, but I'm really excited.
And does Siri appeal to you, the ability to control it with voice commands? Does that make a difference?
For me, it would make a huge difference because I don't want to have to search through and press buttons if I need not do that. So, yeah, I would rather be able to control Siri. And one is it's just the coolness factor, like just pulling up the watch, I do feel like a spy, and I'm just like, hey, Siri, mood lighting, please. And then, and just thinking of having guests over and say, bright light, please. And Siri takes care of things for you. So I think that would
leave and all the lights start lighting.
Yeah, it would. I'm really excited for everything. I want the lights to just know from my watch that I'm in the room, and it's just going to turn on. I don't even want to have to speak to Siri. I'm about as lazy could be. So less movement, the better.
What about you, Peter? Is this an area you're interested in?
It is, but I have reservations, and it's not a matter of technical reservations or concerns over security or what have you. It's just that I look at the technology and I think, okay, how is this demonstrably going to make my life better as opposed to just make things more convenient for me? And with HomeKit stuff, I'm still waiting for that epiphany where it's like, oh, okay, this is something where excuse me, as opposed to just something that would be nice to have, this is something that's really, really going to improve what I'm doing. And I'm hoping that we're going to get some clarity on that at WWDC next week, because, I mean, that is a cornerstone of Apple's philosophy when it comes to making products, right? They make products and they make technology ostensibly not just, to surprise and delight their customers, but also to make their customers' lives better. I've seen how the Apple Watch can do that for me. I'm really impressed with it. The Macintosh does that for me every day. The iPhone does that for me every day. Even the iPad, although I'm not the heaviest iPad user in the world, does that for me. HomeKit isn't striking me as something that I really need in order to make my life better. Just things that would be more convenient. And, Georgia, I think, has articulated very clearly a lot of the really cool stuff that HomeKit can and will be able to do that will make your life more convenient. But better, I'm still not sold on. I'm waiting for that killer app that's going to make me slap my head and say, oh, this is something I need in my house right now.
See, I thought you were going to go along the lines of, I've almost gotten all the kids out of here, and I'll be damned if I refill the house with robots.
See, but that's the wonderful thing. You could use HomeKit to be like, lock all the doors. They're coming back.
Yes, change the combination.
Yeah, so HomeKit started rolling out. There's 5 products, 2 of which were available either for purchase or for order. The rest are coming later in June, later in July, and suffice it to say we have ongoing coverage, but Serenity's already got a ton of how-to guides, how to use it, how to install it, how to get the most out of it, how to troubleshoot it, how, all the guides, Ren.
Yep, if you've got a HomeKit accessory or you're picking one up, check out iMore, because we've run the gamut. We've run the gamut.
The gamut has been run. iMore.com/HomeKit. We're going to take a quick break so I can tell you about lynda.com. This episode, in fact, is brought to you by lynda.com, and they are the online learning platform with over 3,000 on-demand video courses to help you strengthen your business, your knowledge of technology, and you get even more creative skill. For a free 10-day trial, visit lynda.com/iMore. That's lynda.com/iMore.
So again, lynda.com, what is it for? It is for problem solvers, for the curious, for people who want to make things happen. Maybe you want to master Excel, learn negotiation tactics, build a website, boost your Photoshop skills. All you have to do is go to lynda.com and feed your curious mind. It is, as I enjoy saying, the closest thing we currently have on our Earth to jacking straight into the Matrix. No kung fu, fly a helicopter. It's getting to that point, and lynda.com is helping get us there. So here's some of the recommended courses they have this week. Excel 2013 Power Shortcuts, Office Workshop going paperless start to finish, iPhone and iPad security fundamentals, growth hacking fundamentals, and the list literally goes on and on and on and on and on. I've been looking at a lot of lynda.com courses. Previously, I was looking at it for audio work, but now I'm looking at it for photography work. We shoot a ton of photos at iMore all the time. And while I've been living in Photoshop for the last 10 or 15 years and fixing all of my photographs there, I'm starting to learn that maybe getting better photographs in the glass would just be beneficial, would save me time and also lead to better results. And I hear all the terms, I know some of them, but I've never actually taken a photography course, and that's easy to do on lynda.com. You can watch and learn from top experts who are passionate about teaching. You can stream thousands of video courses on demand. You can learn on your own schedule. You can learn at your own pace. Courses are structured so that you can watch them from start to finish or consume them in bite-sized pieces. You can browse each course transcript to follow along or search for an answer and skip to that point in the video. You can take notes as you go and refer to them later. You can download tutorials, watch them on the go, including access to your iOS or Android device. You can create and save playlists and courses that you want to watch. You can customize your learning path to share with friends, colleagues, team members, and more. If it sounds like a lot, it's because Lynda really does give you a lot. It is like a virtual knowledge alpha base repository sort of thing. I don't think I have the terminology for it yet, but I know it's in some sci-fi movie somewhere. Anyway, your lynda.com membership will give you unlimited access to training on hundreds of topics, all for one flat rate. Whether you're looking to become an industry expert, you're passionate about a hobby, or you just want to learn something new, I want you to visit lynda.com/imore and sign up for your free 10-day trial. That's lynda.com/imore. lynda.com/imore. Thank you, Lynda.
All right, moving on. Before we get to WWDC, we also had Tim Cook, who gave a speech a blistering speech, it was called by Matthew Panzarino, on encryption and privacy. His opening remarks were actually kind of interesting. He said, "We can and we must provide both in equal measure. We believe that people have a fundamental right to privacy. The American people demand it, the Constitution demands it, morality demands it." He didn't call out Google and Facebook by name, but he once again spoke about companies whose primary business is advertising or the selling or the aggregation and brokerage of customer data, and how we believe the customer should be in control of their own information. You might like these so-called free services, but we don't think they're worth having your email, your search history, and even your family photos data mined and sold off for God knows what advertising purposes. And we think someday customers will see this for what it is. The reaction to this was incredibly split down the middle. Some people, like Robert Scoble, went off on a tirade saying that this has just meant that Apple is a dead company and they will never live to the future. Ben Thompson from Spectactory, he had similar concerns, nowhere nearly as hyperbolic, but he said that this information is what's going to lead to machine learning. It's what's going to lead to the next great leap forward in computing technology, and that if Apple doesn't take advantage of the data that they have and start providing better services because of it, then they're going to fall behind the Googles and Facebooks and Amazons and other companies that do. John Gruber's take was sort of, it's fine for Apple to say this, but security and privacy should be the frosting on the cake. They still have to have better services. They can't have worse services that are more private. They have to have better services that are more private. And on the other side of it, it was sort of, the cry was more like, thank God, I'm sick and tired of Google taking all my data. You can never get that back. All that information is basically how the Terminator will come back in time and recognize Sarah Connor. You won't have to go through the phone book anymore. Georgia, let's start with you because I know you feel really deeply strongly about privacy and security. Is this FUD? Is this calling Google out unfairly? Does Apple have a blind side? Is there a happy medium? What's going on with all this?
Well, I think that they're two different separate issues. So choosing to, like, getting your privacy taken without your will, doing something that's illegal, not talking to someone is one thing. Google, you have a complicit, you know that they're using all the data that you give them, and for most people, they know that. The same thing with Facebook. So you are allowing them to do. Do I think that they should? No. Do I like it? No. But that's why I don't use Facebook unless I'm going to play Candy Crush and I have to steal Renee's account. and that's fine. It's Rene's data. He loves Candy Crush. So what I think is that I think Tim Cook is right on the money. I think that our right of privacy should come first. I think that the good of the many and the needs of the few, well, unfortunately, it's the needs of the few companies that are selling our privacy not because they're trying to do the greater good or trying to start the new apocalypse. They're just trying to make a whole bunch of money off of the information that they were giving them, and they're exchanging the information that they get by giving us something that we want for it. Now, if you understand that, that's one thing, but I think that we have to be much more careful about the things that we know. Even the stuff that we put on social media, you can end up, if a hacker comes in and then takes all this data that a company has allowed to take, it's a serious issue, and it can change and destroy lives because of that. And so I think that instead of first doing something and then saying, oh, well, can I have permission afterwards, we really need to look into what does this mean for our society in general, what are the negative effects that can come through it, versus what is the greater good that might happen there. And I don't think that we've really had that discussion. Everyone's just trying to take the most of the piece of the pie that they can as quickly as possible.
What about you, Peter?
Well, I think that there are two sides to this. One is that, as evidenced by the recent theft of data from the federal government, you can protect yourself from, exposure on social media all you want, and still, through no fault of your own, end up with exposed data because your employer's IT policies or their security are at risk, or what have you. Right now we're looking at a situation where millions of federal government workers, may have had their personal information exposed to hackers, and there's nothing they can do about that. If they have no social media footprint whatsoever, it doesn't really matter. Their data is still online. Everybody's data is still online, so the question is, how much exposure do you grant to it? I think some people, these days are taking a very laissez-faire attitude towards it because they figure, well, that information is out in the world anyway, so what can I do about it? But I do think that it merits a lot of concern, and Apple here is clearly delineating a difference between, or at least it's trying very clearly to delineate a difference between itself and its competitors in terms of how it uses customer data and what that customer data does. Just today, we ran an article about how Apple Pay adoption hasn't happened with some vendors because they don't have access to customer data.
27%.
Right, exactly. So some vendors, are drawing a line in the sand and saying, no, Apple, we're not going to support your technology because you're not handing over that data, and we want it, we need it, what have you. Bottom line is, the information that goes along with customer transactions, the information that goes along with your data footprint online, is the coin of the realm for so many businesses and so many organizations these days. I don't know whether I agree with Scoble in that. I mean, Scoble, tends to do a lot of didacticism just in the interest of stirring up a conversation, and he's done it for many years. I don't think Apple's dead because they don't do it, but I do wonder if over time Apple is going to have to evolve this policy in order to stay competitive. It'll be very interesting to see.
Interesting to me, Ren, because you talked about Siri before, and Apple has been technically been able to do a lot of the things that Google does for years, but as a matter of policy, they've refused to operate on user data on their servers. And there was some indication with Proactive that they might be changing that, and they might be willing to do a few more things, maybe even a Siri API. But then, according to Mark Gurman, who's well sourced on this kind of stuff, they've pulled back again. They might not do the Siri API because they're worried about data leaking between apps. They might not do some of the features they were going to do. They're going to keep it super simple because of concerns over privacy. And some people are going to miss those features.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like it has to be a dividing line about what you're willing to share versus what you're not willing to share. The thing that Apple has been doing very well at is that I won't necessarily say that they're completely on the high road. They do use your information, but they're very clear about what they use your information for, and they're very clear about asking for your information. So if you're going to be giving, say, your contact information to an app, it makes it very clear that, hey, this app is requesting your contact information. Then the one thing that Apple has been doing very well at, as you mentioned, was keeping that data anonymized. And if it has to pass through servers, doing so in a way that cannot be traced back to an individual phone or a single line. That's helpful not only for just personal privacy in the Apple system, but that's also helpful for both Apple and the end user in the event that the government comes knocking and is like, hey, we need data on this person. And Apple can conceivably say, hey, no, I can't hand over this data because it's anonymized. Like, I can't, there's no way for me to sift out who this data belongs to. And I think that's really important and really, you know, a keystone of what sort of differentiates Apple's policy from Google's.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true. And part of Ben Thompson's piece was that Google and Facebook and all these companies anonymize data as well. They don't do it, at least ostensibly, they don't do it because they're worried about privacy. They do it because they consider it incredibly valuable data. And if they didn't tightly control it, then it wouldn't be valuable. They couldn't make money off it anymore, which, you know, maybe. My concerns are several. I think, first of all, we have to have a discussion. I think, and George and I talked about this on Zen and Tech at length, that people understand money. They understand money very dearly. Like, if I part with money, especially if it's a dollar bill or something, that's a very palpable feeling. People don't understand paying with data, and they don't understand paying with attention. People are supremely willing to mortgage everything in their present without any concern, mortgage their future just to get something in the present. We're very now-focused people, and I worry that we don't always think about what we're giving up when we're getting these quote-unquote free as in Google services. And the second thing that I worry about is not even whether Google's evil or Facebook is evil or they'll sell my data. I remember when Google Buzz launched and they just didn't think about the ramifications, and several people who had been in abusive relationships suddenly had their locations available to the abuser simply because that person had their Gmail address. And it's little things like those. It's the ramifications of all of these decisions. And this sounds totally paranoid, but you know, Google is now a company that has massive amounts of facial data, location data, and they own those horrible spider-bot zombie dogs from Boston Dynamics and satellite tracking systems. That is essentially the Terminator scenario for me. And I'm not saying that to be glib, but I'm saying it starts somewhere, and it might be fantastic, but we need to stop and think about it. And Apple does own iAd, and Apple does do services where they process data, and I don't know who's going to be running. Tim Cook is great. I don't know who's going to run Apple in 10 years, in 20 years. Data has a lifespan. I don't know who's going to be running Google. The NSA has been doing all sorts of stuff with data. Once all my information is given over and cataloged and indexed and machine learned and neural networked, that's just it. I think like now is. Am I crazy, George? I think now is the time to talk about this.
No, I think that that's the problem, is that we've become complacent with it. Because we've already given it away, no one wants to have the debate, and they're like, you know what, it's not that big of a deal, I'm not that important. The problem is that there are important people, and if you think that like information truly is power, and you're giving away all your power for free, and you know, say that, you know, people will use, and they will, and they do use it for political gain. And so, you know, think about all the stuff you do on your computer, all the stuff that your cameras can see, all the things that the mics can hear, and if that data got into the wrong hands and you became a powerful person, could that be used against you in order to control which way you vote, what funds you spend money to?
That sounds like a joke, but you can see that on a television show where a guy says, I'm running for Senate, and they say, we have your search history, and he goes, you can't prove it's mine, and they say, we don't have to.
Yeah. And it does happen. It happens all the time. It used to happen with private eyes. We're just making it easier. But it's something that, you know, again, you know, you talk about money. Power is money, and so people in power want to keep it, and they'll use whatever they have to deal with that. You know, good and bad. We are all at fault to that. So I think that it's a really important debate, and you know, freedom of speech and freedom of privacy, and you know, having to go through the right channels to get that information, and then, you know, even if everything is done up and up and legally, someone can hack in and then have the access to that and then sell to the highest bidder or use for their own personal gain.
We're not even hack in. We saw with the NSA. It was NSA technicians who were using it to spy on ex-girlfriends or ex-boyfriends or things.
Yeah. Yeah, and everyone goes, oh, that's horrible. But, like, think about yourself. Would you do that if you had someone that you were madly in love with or hurt and you had all the access to that information? You know, we are human and we're fallible and we make mistakes and we do dumb stuff sometimes, and they might have done it purposely, but you know, either way, we are fallible to that, and so we have to be much more careful and at least have the debate before we put all of the laws into effect, which it's just sad.
Too late.
Yeah.
All right, so bringing it back to WWDC, what would you like to see now with all of this we've been hearing, Serenity? What would you like to see in terms of Siri for DubDub?
Oh boy. To start, I want Siri to be a little bit more functional. where Siri started off as some really, really smart audio commands and really, really intuitive stuff. But as we saw at Google I/O this year, there's a lot of potential for voice activation, especially voice activation contextually. My dream scenario, and I was thinking about this while I was driving in the car, where I have this, there's a website called Wait But Why, run by Tim Urban, and he wrote this amazing 25,000 word piece on Tesla and on electricity and electric motors. And I'm like, I would love to listen to this during this 2-hour car ride. And what I really wanted to do was just be like, Siri, read me the contents of this web page, and have Siri understand that, right?
Yes. I love that. I do that all the time with when I'm having to do podcasts. I have to actually like copy it all out and then write speak. You're exactly that.
Yeah, just having Siri be a little bit more aware of what's going on, which doesn't, again, I don't necessarily think that means compromising data. I don't think it means that apps need to, you have to go outside of the sandbox. But Siri is already reaching, has its 10 tentacles into various things. Like, I think it would be really, really awesome. It already knows some contextual things, like you can say reply to a message. I want to see its capabilities grow. I want it to be able to do more things. I discovered the other day, it can read Wikipedia pages to you if you're looking up Wikipedia, but it can only read the first paragraph, and then it kicks you out into the thing. And it's just, I don't know. I think that its base level capabilities are good. I want it to be better, especially with all of the innovations that Google is making with Google Now, and we've got startups like Viv kind of encroaching on that territory who are going to launch soon. We need to see a good revision from Siri, and for Pete's sake, the watch cannot just be a handoff machine. Like, it's so nice to have Siri on the wrist. I need more from my Siri, then right. I can do that for you on your iPhone.
Yeah, I'm really in the same boat. Like, I understand the concern about doing large-scale operations, and I've told this story so many times now, but I turned on my Nexus 5. It said, you want to use Google Now? I said yes. It said, can we monitor your web history? And I said no. And it said, well, you can't use Google Now. And that's complete BS. It could give me a subset of functionality that doesn't that's a little bit worse because I'm not giving it web results, but it shouldn't be binary. And maybe that's changed, but I would like that for Apple. I would like Apple to say, if you have the contacts. And we saw at Google I/O, they're going to take a more Apple-like model to privacy where things are asked when you need them so that you're not sort of overwhelmed by this stuff. But they're also doing things like on tap, which gives Google access into apps, which they've kind of lost access to what you're doing now that things have moved from the web into apps. But I think Apple, because they're sort of focused privacy first, could really do this. They don't necessarily need my email or need my web results. They have a lot of data necessarily on the server. They have a lot of data on the device that when something comes in, they can read me the emails, they can find the emails, they can do sort of very useful things to me that doesn't involve them monitoring me or tracking me or parsing me through their servers. And that feels more secure. It also feels a little more private. I know my data is my data, but once it's on the device, it's sort of an instance of it, and it feels more controlled to me. And I think once they start tying in the calendar to the GPS, to all those things locally, and please get on board Siri, because I still should not have to have an internet connection to set an alarm or do anything that doesn't require the actual use of internet services. Do those simple things, and I think without any large privacy leaps, you get a much more useful Siri.
Yeah, I'm the same thing. So like Apple got Q, which was like, exactly that. It was like a personal assistant. It did look into your email and, your calendar and your reminders, and then it would just plan out your day for you with, all of the relevant information of location of that person that you're with there. And so, like, they spent like $40 million on Q. You would hope that they would be integrating this, and then I would love it to be personalized, that each person can choose which applications could have access versus which wouldn't. Because I would not mind having, right away my daily events already planned with time, location, and how to get there, because I get lost, and I, as you know, Rene, am really horrible with time management. So if that could already be laid out for me nice and neatly, it would be worth the cost to that. And, if we could do like two-part encryption, or I have the choice of which things have access to Sandbox to where, that would be something that's great. I need that. Siri is fabulous, but it's a lot of effort to make sure that I'm getting the right information, and I would love for Siri to passively every day just make sure that my day is laid out for me. I need Jarvis.
To be proactive.
Yes.
We're going to take a short break so I can tell you about Smile Software. Talking about Smile Software actually makes me smile, so they are appropriately named. Smile Software makes a lot of great things, a lot of things I use every day, like Text Expander. But what I'm going to tell you about today is PDF Pen Pro. It is the advanced version of PDF Pen, the ultimate all-purpose PDF editor from Smile. It does everything that PDF Pen does, such as add signatures, edit text and images, perform OCR and scan documents, and export a Microsoft Word format. Only PDF Pen Pro can create an interactive PDF form, build a table of contents, set document permissions, and convert websites to multi-page PDFs. So yeah, it is the version of PDF Pen on Hulk Serum. The new PDF Pen Pro 7 adds easy editing of OCR text from scanned documents, as well as export in Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint, and PDF archive formats. All you need to do is go to smilesoftware.com/iMore and download the free demo of PDF Pen Pro 7 today. If you haven't heard enough about it yet, I'm going to tell you just a little bit more. It can sync your PDFs with PDF Pen for iPad and iPhone via iCloud Drive. You can do touch-ups on OCR of scanned pages, and it's never been easier with PDF than it has been with PDF Pen Pro 7. You can export PDFs of spreadsheets and presentations in editable formats, and you can even set the tooltips for form fields, which allows people to create voiceover accessible forms, which is terrific. Accessibility is a huge win. Both PDF Pen and PDF Pen Pro make forms accessible via voiceover. So PDF Pen Pro 7 does require Yosemite, but the only thing else it needs is to make your life easier. So again, I want you to go to smilesoftware.com/iMore, download the free demo of PDF Pen Pro 7 today. Thank you, Smile.
Peter, keeping on the security topic now, there was another sort of an exploit that was found. This time it was in the EFI boot sequence. So basically, if someone could force your computer to go to sleep, or if your computer could go back to sleep, they would take ownage of your computer. It wasn't a remote exploit. You had to previously have root access to it. But this to me sounds like something that Apple's been working to solve with things like rootless. Are you looking forward to more security on the Mac? And is there any particular kind of security you'd like to see from them?
Yeah, I am looking forward to better security on all Mac and iOS and Apple branded devices, and I think that some of the comments or some of the stuff that we've seen Tim Cook reiterate over and over again, like the talk last week, is partly Apple positioning. Greater security stuff. I'd love to see that happen at WWDC next week. I don't know if it's in the offering, but we'll see. The bottom line is this particular exploit, the security researcher has found this problem that affects all Intel-based Macs, because those are the ones that have this EFI firmware that you're talking about, made until I think the middle of last year, right? That enable, under very specific conditions, for a nefarious programmer to rewrite the boot up firmware used in the Mac to make it more susceptible to external exploits. Part of the problem here is that after that's been hacked, it's very hard, if not impossible, to unhack. People who might be victims of this won't easily be able to change their Macs in such a way to sort of close that loophole. One of the other things that's sort of come up through this discussion here is that, Apple doesn't offer security patches for operating systems or for Macs that are older than a certain point. And, Apple's got, as many billions as Apple has in the bank, it's got limited programming resources. It's got a limited number of cooks it can throw in the kitchen to solve these problems at any given time. And it does give customers a potential incentive to get new machines as time goes on. That doesn't sit well with me, but I kind of understand it. The bottom line is you don't need to fear this, although just stay up to date on Apple security updates when they happen, and you're going to find those through the Mac App Store. Hopefully over time we'll see Apple adopt a more open policy towards this sort of stuff than they have in the past, because part of the problem here is just the lack of communication from Apple. It's never clear leading up to these events that there is a problem, and after the fact it's often very hard to get information from Apple about what's going on.
Yeah, I think one of the things, because one of the ways you can prevent this from happening is if you run as a standard user and not as an admin. But for years, most Mac users, I think, have just run as an admin because we were quasi-invulnerable. And one of the things that supposedly that's been rumored, again, Mark Herman, great scoops on this, was rootless, where it wouldn't really matter. You would just, because Peter, I don't think normal human beings should have to worry about what privileges their user account has. They should start their Mac and just be protected. They shouldn't have, the same way Gatekeeper protects them from some crazy software. There should just be a system, and maybe it's rootless, that protects them, that stops things from getting root access that a normal person does not need. Like, yes, if you open up Terminal and sudo and do all these things, you've shown that you can escalate the situation. But just Joe Average opening up a computer, he should not have to worry about root level exploits.
The average user, I would agree, shouldn't have to worry about root level exploits, and the fact that the average user is required. I mean, when you first create when you first set up a Macintosh, the first account that you create is by default an admin account.
Which is the only one most people create.
It's the only one that most people create, exactly. It leaves you vulnerable to these sort of problems. So whether it's rootless or better sandboxing or improved Gatekeeper, improved malware detection, I think all these things play an important role.
Georgia, so what are you looking forward to? Is it the watch stuff? Is it the iOS 9 stuff? Is there anything particular you're hoping for, Dub?
So I would love fabulous to have native applications on my watch. I would like more Siri to be more of a personal assistant than just someone that does a few basic commands. And maps, improve maps, please. I get lost. Me need maps. So I'm hoping that they have some.
Like improved maps in terms of the way they give you directions. Are you looking for the transit directions? Are you looking for indoor stuff?
I would like improved directions of shorter routes, something that they're going to be interfacing with, so that I am no longer in a park. I don't live in a park. I have a house. That kind of stuff.
The last
just so
block
that
stuff, the stuff that Google gets out and drives around and makes sure that all the hospitals and everything are properly noted down.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm excited about all of that, but I'm just really hoping for Siri become an assistant, please.
What about you, Rene? Anything iOS 90 on your list?
Oh gosh, transit. I would like to see better. Actually, I have a couple of things with maps. I'd like to see better traffic as well. One thing where Google Maps, I feel like, has a distinct advantage over Apple Maps and especially when I'm driving through Boston, it's very, very difficult for me to use standard Apple Maps during rush hour. It just doesn't. It's not as helpful to me as Google Maps. In addition to that, what else would I like? Better extensibility support. I want more interactivity and better handoff. Music handoff, please, maybe.
The whole so there was rumors just this. Well, let's get to the final set of rumors. Just this week, we've talked before about how a lot of things are bound to the iTunes organization, which is Eddie Q's organization, and they do a lot of really awesome stuff. But also, to me, it must be very frustrating because a lot of what they can do is tied to what Hollywood or the record labels will allow them to do, and I cannot imagine a more infuriating group of people in this world. I'm not talking about hateful or mean, but there's things you're angry at, but then a fly is buzzing around your head, and that fly at that moment is more annoying than anything that's truly evil or hateful. And that's what I feel like with Hollywood and the record companies. They're just always buzzing, always annoying you, always just give me stuff and I will give you money. It could be a very simple relationship, but it's always made complicated. And news has come out that Apple may not have all the streaming music deals yet for their new music service, and they're negotiating up to the last minute. I don't think Apple's afraid of launching without every deal. I know when they launched DRM-free music, they only had EMI, and when they launched the ebooks, there were a couple of big booksellers that weren't part of that deal, and they launched anyway, and they let it build over time. But it would be nice if all of that stuff sort of didn't we didn't get any iTunes stuff last year. There was very, very little. There was like some new channels, there was some new services. We did get HBO Now earlier this year, but there was no really big revamps of what it meant to be a music app or a video app, or like Serenity said, there was no handoff for media. There were no big plays, and buying Beats certainly made Apple change whatever was on the agenda. But it just feels, and I'll get into this now, the Apple TV, there was rumored to be new Apple TV hardware. Now there's rumored it won't be, and part of that might be because the streaming video service Apple wanted to offer isn't ready. There are fantastic engineers, fantastic designers. There are people there. This company ships iPhones and iPads every year. I can't help but believe they could ship iPod Touches and Apple TVs every year if it was just a question of putting that chipset in there, getting something like Siri working on it, putting up the new user interface, all that stuff. Maybe there were some false starts, maybe there's been some disagreements about directions, but it's been since 2012 for the Apple A5 devices, and there's been no visible movement to the outside world, and it feels like they could do such great things there. And I just... There is an argument to be made, George's husband made this the other day, that until there's 4K content, until there's a lot of other stuff, new hardware won't mean as much as it possibly could. But even if a game system or a game store and app store isn't hugely successful on a TV, it would at least to me make Apple TV a more compelling product in the Roku and Amazon Fire and Google TV laden market, Ren.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a tough situation because Apple is trying to balance the manufacture of their hardware and all of the power that they do have to create these awesome chipsets with great box support, but they see the Apple TV as largely something that can't exist on its own, you know? The Apple TV needs content to survive, and it needs some kind of apps, and it makes me really bummed that they would push it again because I don't know at what point they would be able to launch it. Maybe in the fall, but then you're talking about compounding your new iPhone, your new iPad, and a new Apple TV all at once, and that's putting undue stress on engineers too. So I just don't know how, like, if it's delayed now, and I mean we still don't know for sure, but rumors and reputable sources tend to agree that it is delayed. If it's delayed, when are we going to see the next version, and how much forward movement from Amazon Fire and the Chromecast and all of that are we going to see in the meantime? I love my Apple TV, but it's getting harder and harder to justify it beyond AirPlay. Like, AirPlay is the primary reason I use my Apple TV right now. And the new HomeKit stuff that rolled out in 7.0 that allows you to control your HomeKit lights remotely, that's cool. But ultimately, like, it's very hard for me to be like, this TV box is awesome. I know it's slow and cranky and it reboots sometimes because it's several years old at this point. But I don't know. Come on, Apple. Figure it out.
Yeah, some people believe that Apple has to go... Apple's an incredibly patient company, and they'll just wait and wait and wait, and sometimes it's infuriating, and then all of a sudden there'll be a new Mac Pro, and Phil Schiller will be up on stage prancing about it. But in other times they're very steady, and they iterate year over year, and I never know which of these two Apples applies to any specific situation. So it might just be that they really believe that the Apple TV has to be input one on your television. It has to be so good that you're going to put it before any other box, and it'll have all your live TV, and that's the only play worth making here, and everything else is not enough revenue or not enough, or they can't make enough of a difference in how TV is consumed for them to bother with it. And maybe that's fine, but to your point, Ren, like just for basic things, I think an updated package, an updated box would breathe enough life into it for I don't have the numbers. I'm not in the iTunes meetings. I don't know what the realities are. But Peter, I don't know. It seems to me like this product would be better on the market than not on the market at this point.
Well, that's exactly it, you know, and I think I agree with the underlying thesis of your point, which is that the Apple TV feels unnecessarily tethered to content right now.
Yeah.
I think if Apple continues to develop the Apple TV as the hub of the connected home, I think if it offers access to content which it does have direct control over, and if it continues to develop new and exciting ways for us to interact with the Apple TV and make the Apple TV an accessory that works with our other Apple products in ways that we're not expecting, that is a very compelling reason for people to go out and buy the Apple TV, both the third generation product and the ostensible fourth generation product, which either we will or we won't see next week, depending on which rumors you're listening to. So, you know, the problem is Hollywood. The problem is entertainment. You know, this is a multi-billion-dollar market. This is one of the United States' biggest exports abroad. So it's no wonder that the players who are involved are so intent on keeping as much of their crayons as they can. I understand that. I understand their desire to make money and their desire not to let what happened to the music industry when iTunes came to the fore happen again. Having said that, as a consumer, I share the same frustration that you do, Rene, although I have to say as an American, I see it from a very different perspective on Apple TV than you do, because unlike you, I actually have content on my Apple TV. So I think I'm a little luckier there than Canadians or our friends in Europe do.
Canadians have a lot compared to people of most of the world.
Right. Having said that, the one point I'd go back to, Ren, with what you said is about how the Apple TV is really only useful as an AirPlay device. Well, that's also its killer feature right now. Anybody can go out and get a box, whether it's a Chromecast or a Roku or whatever, that lets them stream content, or even a Comcast DVR. When it comes to streaming on-demand content, my X1 from Comcast works just as well, if not better, and is more convenient to use than my Apple TV. But when it comes to streaming content from my Apple devices, that's where the Apple TV really comes in handy. That's its killer device. That's what I want to see Apple build on foundationally for other Apple TV technology. That's where I think that the Apple TV can really stand on its own as a device that you want, that you need, that makes life better. And as we get more into the connected home with HomeKit, Apple TV is going to be very crucial there.
Yeah, I think Phil Nickinson from Android Central was telling us that he has the Amazon Echo in I think one of his kids' rooms, and they just tell it what they want to listen to, and he doesn't have to worry about queuing up music for them anymore. And that functionality of having ambient Siri just in your room. And I know Microsoft does something similar. I don't know if they call it Cortana on Xbox One or not yet, but there is something to be said for having ubiquitous ambient Siri in major locations of your house. Maybe not auto listening if that kind of stuff bothers you, but maybe something that you can queue with the device and turn on for spans of time, like you press a button and it listens for the next 5 minutes or something. Whatever it is, I think there's some interesting cases there. And just to clarify, Serenity mentioned the Apple TV with HomeKit. We keep getting the question about whether you can buy an Apple TV and it will automatically make all your existing home automation stuff work because it will be the unicorn hub. No, alas, no. It just lets you control stuff. Like if Serenity goes to the airport and wants to make sure all her lights are off, she can use the Apple TV for that. She can't use it to make all her Hue bulbs suddenly HomeKit compliant. Sorry, Ren.
Sadly, no. I do think that could be a killer feature, but it would also require a lot of work on Apple's part because they would have to integrate all of those other manufacturers. Nah.
Yeah, and even then, the sub hubs wouldn't be secure anymore. So then your passwords are flying around again, and it's tough. We got a couple quick questions before we end. This is from John. He put a couple up, so I'm going to just sort of aggregate them together. Peter, do you ever think we'll see from Apple unified apps, meaning that you could buy Tweetbot for iOS and Mac in one bundle and update them in one bundle? Sort of like what Microsoft, I guess, wants to do with Windows 10. Just runs everywhere.
I don't know. I think it would take a sea change on Apple's part in terms of how it approaches apps and app development and its relationship with developers to happen. I don't think it's going to happen in the short term, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know, because Apple doesn't treat everything as one. Like I know as much as Material Design wants to do that for Google and whatever they call Metro now wants to do that for Windows, Apple really has different devices for different purposes, and developers write specific apps for that. And you may not even want, it might be nice to have the option, but you may not even want, like you might have Twitterific on your Mac and want Tweetbot on your iPhone and want something else on your iPad. So maybe as an option, but the way it's currently architected, they're completely separate stores. And I think the watch might potentially be one as well. I don't think we're seeing that right now, but I think it might be one. All right, I think all the other questions we answered in the course of the show, so we will just, I will just ask you. Actually, first I'll say that last week was Ali Kazmuha's last week at iMore. She has gone off to pursue other interests, and I just wanted to thank her for being on this show and being on iMore for 5 years, which seems like both no time at all and forever. So thank you very much, Ali. If you want to continue to enjoy what she does, you can follow her at iMuggle. And Georgia, if people want to continue to follow what you do, where can you go? Where can they go?
They can find me on Twitter at Georgia_Dow, and I do a podcast called Isometric.
Awesome. What about you, Peter?
I am on the social things at Flarg, Flargh, and of course on iMore every day.
And Ren?
I'm at Settern, Settern, on the social things, Instagram and Twitter, and on imore.com, and occasionally on the Incomparable.
Awesome.
And I want to once again thank lynda.com, the online learning platform with over 3,000 on-demand video courses to help you strengthen your business, technology, and creative skill. For a free 10-day trial, not just a week, but 10 full days, visit lynda.com/imore. That's lynda.com/imore. lynda.com/imore. Thanks, Linda.
You can find me at Rene Ritchie. You can find all of us at iMore. Next week, you'll be able to find me, Serenity, and Peter at WWDC. We'll be doing the keynote live from Moscone Center starting at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on Monday. After that, we're going to be doing a reaction panel, just sort of like the iMore show live from Alt WWDC, which is just down the street. And then after that, we're going to be resuming our coverage. Is there anything you especially would like to see? Please do drop us a note to those Twitter addresses mentioned previously and let us know. I think Georgia is going to be doing the Twit live stream for WWDC. So if you want her opinion, you can catch her there. And other than that, it's going to be an amazing week. It's going to be a crazy week. We are probably going to get almost no sleep, but we're going to have a ton of fun. So please do follow along with us at imore.com. Thanks, everybody.